It was just after 9 p.m. when the rain started to fall harder, the windshield wipers of the old Chevy truck groaning as they struggled to keep up. Daniel Blake squinted through the downpour, gripping the wheel tighter. The heater coughed weakly, doing little to chase away the cold that had settled into his bones. His son, Ben, barely 10 years old, sat curled up in the passenger seat, wrapped in a thin hoodie that had once belonged to Daniel himself. Life had been anything but kind lately. Daniel was a single father. His wife, Emily, had passed away 3 years ago after a long battle with cancer. The bills had drained their savings, and by the time she was gone, all Daniel had left was debt, grief, and a little boy who depended on him for everything. He worked 2 part-time jobs, morning shifts at a warehouse and late evenings delivering groceries. It wasn't enough, but it kept them going. Barely. They lived in a rundown apartment, and dinner was often peanut butter sandwiches or instant noodles. Still, Daniel tried to smile for Ben. He read to him every night, told him stories about the stars and how his mom used to say their love lived in the sky now, lighting the night. He couldn't afford much, but he could afford love. Tonight, they were driving home after Daniel's shift, the gas tank nearly empty and his wallet containing only $7.43. That's when he saw her. A flash of movement by the side of the road. A woman, soaking wet, limping and trying to wave someone down. Her white coat was stained with blood, and she clutched her arm as if it were broken. Cars zoomed past without stopping. Daniel pulled over instinctively. Ben sat up, worried. "Dad, who's that?" "I don't know," Daniel said, already stepping out into the rain. "But she needs help." The woman looked startled as he approached. Her face was pale, and her soaked hair clung to her cheeks. "Please," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I had an accident. My phone's gone. I think my wrist is broken. I think I hit my head." Without hesitation, Daniel guided her to the truck and helped her inside. He wrapped her in an old blanket from the back seat and cranked up the heater, such as it was. "Hang on," he said. "I'll get you to the hospital." The drive was silent, aside from Ben's soft murmurs and the woman's shallow breaths. Daniel glanced at her through the rearview mirror, something about her felt out of place. Not just the blood or the injury, but the expensive coat, the designer boots, and the ring on her finger that sparkled even in the dim truck light. She didn't look like someone who was used to asking for help. When they reached the emergency entrance, Daniel jumped out and called for a nurse. He carried her into the ER himself, ignoring the protests from staff that they would handle it. Once she was in good hands, Daniel waited a while to make sure she was okay. But with Ben falling asleep against his side and the truck's gas light blinking, he decided to head home. He didn't know her name. He didn't expect to ever see her again. The next morning, the knock at the door startled him. Daniel, bleary-eyed, opened it to find a sharply dressed man in a suit holding a card. Behind him was a sleek black car that looked like it belonged to someone in a movie. "Are you Mr. Blake?" "Yeah," Daniel replied warily. "Can I help you?" "My name is Evan. I work for Ms. Charlotte Hastings. She asked me to personally thank you." "Who?" "The woman you helped last night. She was in an accident. You drove her to the hospital." "That woman is Ms. Hastings, CEO of Hastings Group." Daniel blinked. "Wait. Hastings? The tech company?" "Yes, sir. She's one of the wealthiest women in the state. She asked me to bring you this." He handed Daniel a note and a small envelope. Daniel opened the note first. "Dear Mr. Blake. You didn't know me. You owed me nothing. Yet, when others passed me by, you stopped. You helped me, carried me, and asked for nothing. Most people see what they want to see. You saw a person in need. That kind of heart is rare. Please accept this small token, not as payment, but as appreciation. I hope to see you again soon. With gratitude. Charlotte Hastings. Daniel opened the envelope and nearly dropped it. Inside was a check, made out in his name, for $50,000. Daniel didn't know what to think. He stared at the check, then at Ben, who was still curled up in bed. He could pay off Emily's medical debts. Fix the truck. Maybe even get Ben new shoes. He didn't cash the check right away. He wasn't sure if he should. A week later, a letter arrived. An invitation to dinner, private, at Charlotte's estate. He debated going. But curiosity, and something else he couldn't name, made him accept. When he arrived, he expected a grand hall and cold formalities. Instead, Charlotte greeted him herself. Her arm was in a sling, her smile genuine. "You came," she said warmly. "I was afraid you wouldn't." "I didn't want to accept something I didn't earn," Daniel said honestly. Charlotte looked at him for a long moment. "Daniel, sometimes gratitude is not about what someone earns. It's about acknowledging what they gave." Dinner was surprisingly casual. They talked, about life, their losses, their hopes. Charlotte had lost her parents young and had built her empire from nothing. Yet in all her success, she confessed, she had grown tired of people who wanted her for her money, her name, her power. "You were different," she said quietly. "You saw a bleeding woman, not a billionaire." Over the weeks that followed, they spoke often. She visited him and Ben. Took them to the zoo, brought groceries, and never acted like she was someone above them. Slowly, something bloomed, soft, tentative, real. One evening, Daniel and Charlotte sat on a park bench watching Ben chase fireflies. "Do you ever feel like, this is all a dream?" he asked. Charlotte smiled. "All the time. But if it is, I don't want to wake up." He looked at her, really looked at her. The woman who had once been a stranger bleeding in the rain was now someone who had brought light into his and Ben's life. "I don't know what I can give you, Charlotte," he said honestly. "You have everything." "I don't," she said gently. "Not until now." They sat in silence, the kind that didn't need to be filled. A year later, they married, quietly, in a small ceremony under the same stars Daniel had told Ben about. Charlotte moved into their modest home at first. She insisted they keep their life grounded. Daniel kept working, though only one job now, and started coaching Little League. Ben, happier than ever, finally had a family again. What Charlotte gave them wasn't just wealth. It was stability. A second chance. And what Daniel gave her was something rarer still, love without condition, without agenda. In the end, it wasn't money that changed their lives. It was a moment of kindness on a rainy night. Because sometimes, when you stop to help a stranger, you end up finding the missing pieces of your own broken heart. And sometimes, the richest hearts are found in the poorest places.